Good day, wherever you are, whatever part of the day it is. Morning, noon, evening, night. In some cases, very much night. Here it's morning. See? That's the direction that the sun will be coming up in soon. So that's the weather report. And I have an air filter on. You see, it's purple. That's because of the pollution. It should be blue. So I see paths, I see maps, I see art, I see friends. Smiling faces. Friendly faces. Darine, are you going to lead the morning sitting? Well,
Yes, I'll be happy to.
except this is one of the only mornings, possibly. There might be other mornings out there.
Hello, everyone. It's really beautiful to see you. And oh, just you know, just take a few moments with the eyes open or closed, just to feel the impact in the heart, mind of this connection with our spiritual friends. Feeling the nourishment. And with all this gentleness and warmth, joyous heart, just letting attention land in your body, including the whole body, feeling your posture, and perhaps all these beautiful qualities of heart spill over to the rest of your heart, to the rest of your body. And as we settle and relax, Just receiving whatever is appearing, whatever is obvious. For some of you, it might be sounds, vibrations, textures. We're aware of the mental image that a sound might trigger. And so we recognize what's the mind, what's conceptual, and what is the direct experience at the ear door. Curious with interest, noticing perhaps the mental feeling tone, whether the sound vibrations are pleasant, unpleasant, or neither pleasant or unpleasant. Not taking them personal, just allowing the sounds to come and go by themselves. And we attempt to be concurrent, letting attention connect and sustain as much as we can with the rising and life and death of the sound vibrations and textures, even if it's for a few seconds, a second. We take our time with great care and gentleness. And we do the same with body sensations, settling back and receive them, subtle or gross or warm, cool, tingly, pressure, light, heavy, whatever it is, obvious or not obvious, clear or unclear. And this includes our mental states, our emotions, moods, just taking our time to feel the correspondence in our body, corresponding sensations in the body. And we do the same like we did with sounds. We just let them come and go by themselves. Thoughts coming and going. Mental formations coming and going. Or perhaps your primary anchor is the movement of the breath. We do the same, receiving any sensation directly, not through the thought process, but directly as sensations, pressure, temperature. Hmm. Whatever arises is what we're supposed to be knowing. There is nothing on the way. Noticing the quality of awareness. Perhaps it has a flavor or spiritual qualities of any of the Brahma Viharas. Caring, caring for any unpleasant feeling tone. Or appreciating the pleasant feeling tones. Or perhaps there is the even mind of equanimity, just accepting unconditionally things as they are. Nothing to manipulate or fix, change, rearrange. It's allowing experience to be, phenomena to be just as it is. Perhaps there is a restful, quiet, non-doing abiding in the heart, knowing and allowing, disconnected.
Shall we take some questions? So, what's happening in the world of meditation? Samantha.
Hello. Hi, Steve. Hi, Darine. Thanks for the guided sitting today. Um, I had a question about gratitude, and I'm trying to figure out the difference between uh, trying to generate more gratitude or just experiencing gratitude arise. I'll try and explain. I really appreciate the way you guys teach the Brahma Viharas, sometimes in pairs and infused with wisdom. It speaks to me very deeply. And I had a little more time, so I was doing some practice with mudita and equanimity. And I had a wonderful experience where gratitude just overwhelmed me in a beautiful way, and lasted for a long time. Still with me. I'm sure it will dissipate, but I'm enjoying what I can. And I feel like in general I'm a pretty grateful person, but that was different. It was gratitude. I can't even believe I'm saying this, but even for gratitude for the things that I don't like. So it wasn't attached to something pleasant or neutral, even. It was just, yeah, just this gratitude for the Dharma, for being surrounded by people who are caring and respectful, but also just whatever, just being able to see things as they are. I don't know. And so that was a different flavor than, I believe in gratitude deeply. So I try and practice it, almost like in a using the phrases, right? I'm grateful and thankful for whatever um, I have. Um, but that was different. And I don't know if I rose from the mudita and equanimity practice together, and of course I'm trying to replicate it, and I know I can't, but I just thought I would ask.
So, you're saying it did arise while you were doing mudita and equanimity?
Yes, in the way you guys teach, yeah. Uh, so I don't do the Brahma Viharas very well. Um, Not that I do Vipassana that well, but I have more ease with mindfulness practice. With insight practice, it's a little bit uh, more how my brain works. So, but yes, I was leaning my attention towards mudita and equanimity at the moment that I experienced that. So yes, the answer is yes.
And then you said you reflected on other things in your life and gratitude was there. Is that what you said? So,
No,
no.
yeah. So gratitude came up, and it wasn't like associated with a specific thing in my life. It was gratitude for even the things that I don't like,
Right.
just for being able to see the value of whatever is, which, like I said, is different than how I usually experience gratitude, which is, I'm grateful for my kids, for my health, I'm usually not grateful for a car accident. But at that moment, it was balanced. There was no favoritism. It was just grateful for, that's why I say, for the understanding. I don't know what I understood, but yeah.
Like the challenges as well as the obvious good things in your life.
Right.
Being able to move through challenges, difficulty. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Or just being able to see that they have value instead of having the need to push it away.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what I mean by balance. So I do think it's partially because of equanimity. I don't know. That's why I'm asking. But yes, no pushing or pulling, or very little. I mean, minimum. Content, peace, peace.
So you're noticing gratitude naturally arising
Right.
from just being, from just sitting. But you're also implicit, I'm hearing you're asking, is there a way to practice gratitude? Is that right?
Right. Yes. Yes. Because exactly. Because I try to practice by um, connecting with the things that are true, clearly that I need to be grateful for, like my health, the fact that I have the Dharma. It's extremely grateful for that. Um, and it's nice, but nothing like that. That was out of this world. I have nothing to do with what happened. I know that much.
Well, can you say more about that? What the feelings were that you're calling gratitude? What was the experience?
Balance, peace, awareness, content. There was pain, I was sitting, my knee was hurting like hell, but I was not uh, rejecting the pain. Um,
It seemed like a direct appreciation of the practice of the Dhamma.
right.
That's what
So
I'm hearing.
that's why, yes, and that's why I keep saying gratitude for being able to see the Dharma. But it was big, right? So it expands to the other. Then the thought came in, because at the moment there was very little thought, but then the thought of grateful for, I mean, literally my kid had a car accident, so there was even gratitude for that, which
Hmm.
is really weird. Is
Because,
there a way to practice more of that?
sure, I mean, I think of a lot of meditation sessions for myself beginning with reflection on, a lifetime of Dhamma and, having the opportunity to come across the Dhamma in my life at a young age
Yeah.
and living in Asia and going to Burma and meeting Mahasi Sayadaw, reflecting on all those sort of stepping stones of the Dhamma that brought me deeper into it. And I don't really have it's a different sense than building on having a metta object
Right.
and growing that with the phrases and visualizations and whatnot. But it's not. It's very similar because it's more or less what I heard you doing.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct. Yep, correct. Okay.
And which makes it a lot more free flow. That you there isn't one system like there is for each Brahma Vihara, at least at first, until they become free flow as well. That you can just reflect on the things that usually bring up gratefulness and gratitude. You can make it a practice, is what I'm saying.
Mhm.
You can do it along with or before and after Brahma Viharas, for example.
Mhm. I see.
And if you want to make it more of a regular practice, just when you wake up in the morning, what do you usually pick up? You know, you pick up an object of your Vipassana practice or your a Brahma Vihara or reflection on your children or think of what you usually do and then
Right.
see if gratitude fits naturally into that. If you can make that, you don't have to have Brahma Vihara like phrases, but you can.
Hmm.
I mean, sometimes we just have what we have around in our room and our eyes are
Right.
open.
Right.
It, it, a response comes up, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I have, the image of the Buddha right in front of my bed. So that's Sakyamuni
And
is,
you can remember that image wherever you are.
I can,
Yeah,
100%. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But gratitude is not one of the 10 paramis, is not one of the 7 factors of enlightenment, right? What is, or
Not on one of those lists, but you see
mm,
it a lot. The Katunya is
Katunya? Can you
uh,
spell? K.
A
Uh-huh. T.
T U, two N's with a little squiggly over it.
Okay.
It sounds like
Got
a
it.
Y. Sounds like a
Yeah.
Y. A
Yeah.
Katunya.
Got it.
Katunya.
Okay. Hmm.
It's the Pali word for it. And I think you're describing you're personalizing how you practice it, but you can have a system like the things that you are grateful for, and starting with the Dhamma and starting with having a practice that changes your life
Right.
and can change your life every day.
And he did again.
Alter,
Unreal.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, or just
Perfect.
for the kind of day you're having, or even if it's a difficult day, the gratitude, as you implied at the beginning, that you have the facility to move through a difficult day, a rainy day, a a down day, so to speak. You can still call up and feel gratitude, that you know how to handle it. You can feel the feelings of it. What's it like in the body? What are the sensations? What are the mind states? What do they feel like? And
Okay.
if you follow along, what's an underlying mental mood, mental state,
Hmm.
you know, feeling at that moment?
Got
So
it.
in a way, it's always there, isn't it? And it's
Yeah.
always there to be able to say, to call up and what's going on right now, and then relishing this ability that we have to be mindful or to feel um, kindness towards something or compassion, caring for ourselves, our lives, what's going on. That's all. You see how the gratitude is inbuilt there, or we can draw it out from those reflections, like just what's happening now. And as you reflect on your life and you look around in your shelter and what you have up on the Buddha, but what else is around, artful things, furniture, shelter, colors, all those things. As I look around, I can feel gratitude for a window that looks outside, maybe, if
Hmm.
it's light.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, Stephen. Very
gratitude
much.
can be anywhere, anytime. Yeah. Anything to add to that, Darine?
I just love the description of that you um, just said, and it's like this abiding in gratitude, and is gratitude being grateful that it doesn't depend on any object, and when we think of any object, either pleasant or unpleasant, it doesn't matter, like you said,
Right.
your
Yeah.
child.
In,
And
independent from. Yes.
exactly, it doesn't depend on anything. It's just is gratitude being grateful, and that's abiding in it. And there are no barriers, and it's not it has nothing to do with me or others or objects, and it's wonderful when that happens. And the quality of being grateful, the heart has to be open and connected in order to receive. And those are wonderful moments. I'm really happy for you, and that you can soak on them, and the memory in your body and mind and heart remains forever. And so
Yes.
it's a great resource, and you can call up and even into what just happened as a way of calling it up, like, because you know how it feels.
Right. Yes. Thank you. That's very helpful, Darine.
De nada.
Receive it again.
Sí.
Mahalo. Gracias.
De nada.
Bill, you have a hand up?
Yes, we do. Can you hear me?
Can hear you and can see you.
Good. Thank you to both of you for running the group. Yeah, I've been here. I've been coming for the last few weeks, and it's really nice to join everyone. So, so I have a question about uh, some of the mental qualities, or yeah, some mental qualities in my practice that I'm noticing. And I guess well, I'll just try to describe what is going on. So, or where I'm trying to put my question. It's a little bit difficult for me to describe. It's kind of I feel like I'm trying to be very precise about something, so it can be hard to describe. But I'll try. So, um, what I'm recognizing is a kind of changing or a state of mind that's like very unclear and very it's kind of like a mental quality that happens when I'm identified with something, or I'm lost in the content of thought, um, which that kind of mental quality could be compared against the mind when it's more concentrated, and sometimes a shift between the concentrated mind and one that's unconcentrated, kind of the way I was just describing it, can for me shift at times quite quickly. So my mind might be more unified and still and very simple thoughts in the background, um, and then perhaps can be quite quick that I'll become identified with a thought, and it's a very big shift in terms of the quality of my mind state. And um, so it's like my mind can suddenly feel very heavy and veiled and unclear and foggy in terms of my awareness. Um, so that's kind of the qualities of what that mind is like in meditation. But I also just recognize it as just being a kind of like my sort of where I live my sentimental life, like just my very familiar state of mind. So my question, so it's kind of what's going on, but my question uh, is it useful to spend time being aware of that, to spend time like noticing that and kind of examining it, um, in kind of with investigation, because yeah, so that's kind of my question is
And
like
what I
that.
was thinking when you were describing that was, I was wondering if you were aware of feeling tone, whether what you were experiencing was a pleasant, unpleasant, neutral feeling tone, or
Mhm.
it danced between those three different kinds of feeling tones. I also wondered if you had aware of any physical sensations in the body
um
with that shift from unity, concentration to something more, something different.
yeah, I would say there's definitely more like the mind is, or my experience becomes more fractured, right? So it's like I'm less connected to my body uh, in that kind of state, though. Um, I could still probably be aware of feeling tone, and in terms of the way I'm working with it at that time, when it seems workable, like when it seems like I have little bits of awareness of what's going on, like I can kind of continually note, okay, this is this unconcentrated, distracted mind, and I can kind of keep that keep that going. Like I could say, yes, this is what's happening right now. It would, for the majority, feels very neutral in feeling tone, though it could shift into either direction of being either pleasant or unpleasant, or yeah, either pleasant or unpleasant, depending um, on what
And
I'm
what
distracted
about
by or whatever.
sense
Mhm.
doors? So you're aware of the body or breath or sounds, or aside from the mental state, that's one sense door. But
Mhm.
other things come arise where you feel a gravitation toward some area of the body that seems to mirror or reflect or in some way connect with that samadhi to lack of samadhi.
Um, that's a hard question. It's in terms of when it is actually, well, in terms of when I feel like I'm actually shifting between the two, it's um yeah, that's hard to say, but or hard for me to say, but um it's
Well,
definitely
what happens? What
possible.
happens? You notice this going on, and then some, and then what? Kind of
um, mhm,
what are ensuing mind moments? What are they like? So if you continue, you experience
mhm,
that samadhi shift, and then
mhm.
what happens?
So uh mainly just that mainly just like a drop in energy, and
Mm.
uh like a little bit of a drop in energy, and then the predominance of my thoughts are in the forefront of my mind. And like I said, it's like it feels like there's a veil over my mind, eye, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
And then it's more like in terms of how much I can practice with it, it comes and goes how much I'm connected with my body. But it might just be that it might just be, well, you know what? It perhaps there is. Perhaps it's more like, because it's like it feels like my experience is positioned more in my head and in my face. So if anything's there is a bit of a way to be connected to my body through my face. Um,
great.
yeah, where there's more just of like a flat kind of pressure or slight heaviness in my face. Um, and so it is like I could still find a sense of grounding by shifting back to my face or to my breath for moments. Uh, and then, but I'm also just so part of kind of what I'm asking is if I do have the ability to just go back to my anchor, is that what is suggested, or should I spend time? Is it worthwhile to uh, bring curiosity to that kind of veiled state of mind that's not clear, mm, is identified with the content of thought?
It
Uh,
sounds like you did that. It
right.
sounds like you did bring curiosity and you noticed what it was like to have sensations on your face, in the front of your head, and whatnot. And you explored that.
Hmm.
And of course, you always have the anchor to go back to.
Right.
That's essentially how we often, it's at least how we begin practice. And then if we get lost and suddenly remember to be present again, we may start with, well, where's the body? Where's the breath? What's
Hmm.
happening now?
Hmm.
And and then further explore as you did, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral feeling tone. In your case, neutral feeling tone.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Uh, and
What I noticed is that by your very description of the sensations, like on the front of your face, is that your sort of center of gravity was the awareness itself. It wasn't
right.
thoughts about it. It was the awareness of it that you were recollecting.
Right. 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 Yeah, that makes sense. Um, so okay. I think I feel like I know what to do. So I think you answered my question.
I think you did.
Thank you.
Anything, Darine?
I think I will just add that in the moment, like first of all, we all do that. That's part of sitting, and when you recognize that you're lost in thought, or and there is this cloud or foggy or everything that you were describing, and then you become aware, like that's not from being lost in thought and not aware to become
Mhm.
aware. Just don't, I say this for me, like I don't try not to rush. Just when you wake up from that identification with the thoughts, that moment of waking up, of being aware again, just notice it without rushing to the anchor, or like there's no problem as long as we are aware, and also relating. You can check how you're relating to it, and you can check the motivation, like,
Right.
right, and
Mhm.
and then with all that, you can choose. There is that, after that there is a moment of choosing, so there is
Yep.
no that rush to the anchor, because
Right.
that's the
Right.
correct thing to do. You can choose in that moment.
Yeah, that's that kind of that answers so there's that moment of choosing that you're saying, and it's almost like part of what I'm asking is would it be useful to choose to not go to my anchor but actually stay with some of those qualities of unclarity and identified thoughts? So it's almost as if it's not like I'm lost in thought to the point that there's no comprehension of what's going on. It's like I know that there's a level of identification in my mind, and I can continually see that there's identification happening in my mind. So uh, so in that case, I guess what I'm, but it's at the same time, it's like that's a state of mind that's it doesn't like to put it in another context. Not like the seven factors of enlightenment, for example. I can also identify that they're not really happening too much. There's not a lot of that going on. The energy's low. My interest is low. Like how mindful or aware I am is is very small amounts. It's almost like I'm being aware of a set of qualities of the mind that actually help to make mindfulness disappear, right? And
Well, wouldn't you say that's part of the spectrum of mindfulness that we call clear comprehension?
yeah, yes, yeah,
Because in the Buddha's discourse, he talks about, mindfulness, body, feelings, consciousness, dhammas, and clear comprehension.
okay, yeah,
So it's sort of like the activating the wisdom part of mindfulness to clearly comprehend what you just described to us.
yeah,
Is am I making a choice here, or do I need to make a choice here? I mean, you were open to the moment. You didn't have anything sort of prescribed, you know, that you bring out of the toolkit. You were just in the moment and you were describing your experience to us. But
yeah.
what I was hearing was that what was lifted was the clear comprehension part of the mindfulness practice. That makes
Hmm.
sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's almost like being aware of how that clear comprehension is fluctuating, right? Like how it's coming and going, like almost understanding that right now I'm not comprehending, or that the object that I'm being aware of is veiled, or I'm not able to clearly see it. But I still know that. Does that make any sense?
Well, it does. So what I was, when you first said that, I was hearing, I was hearing you enunciate a clear comprehension of your experience.
Right.
Wisdom doesn't necessarily have a vocabulary of concepts. It just knows. It's intuitive knowing. It's not intellectual knowing.
Hmm.
It's not conceptual knowing. It's just knowing. So so that's what's meant by clear comprehension is intuitive knowing,
Right.
not reflective, conceptual knowing.
Right. Right. Right.
So to me, it seemed on the same trajectory as your mindfulness. Yeah, at some point, you're bringing in a wisdom aspect of it, and it may or may not borrow wise reflection, the use of concepts in a dhammic way, in a dhamma way.
Hmm.
Like when we talk about wise reflection or clear comprehension, it's very similar, isn't it?
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you to both of you. I think you've helped
Good.
make a little more clear what I'm doing. Yeah.
Asking questions like that does bring clarity to the Dhamma for your own sake and for everyone else's sake. So thank you. To ask questions, they say it said brings clarity of mind and removes doubt.
Mm.
So it's a good thing. It's a good part of the practice.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I like some of these windows here. It just shows the ceiling or a wall, and a light switch, and then all of a sudden people return. It's like a meditation, you know. Changing phenomena. Any other observations, questions? Oh, there we go, Margot.
You hear me?
I hear you.
Okay. Um, so my question arises from at the end of the Roma Vihara retreat in January. I said to myself that I was heading into a time where I needed to come in relationship to old age, sickness, and death. And so 4 days after the retreat ended, I had dental surgery to remove an infection, and I got very sick as a result, sicker than I've ever felt in my life. And I had, despite my years of practice, I had no capacity for mindfulness. The physical sensations were so intense. I was completely identified with my suffering. And I could occasionally notice and identify aversion, but that was kind of the extent of my capacity to practice. And I obviously recovered. And I'm including my recovering my ability to be mindful and to be equanimous. But it surprised me that in the face of that challenge, it was like I just didn't know how to practice. So now that I am in the phase of life where old age, sickness, and death are ahead of me, I guess I'm wondering if you have any observations or advice or encouragement about how to work with such an overwhelming experience of physical pain and discomfort and fear. I mean, I was very afraid of whether I would recover. I mean, it was not actually a life-threatening infection, but the symptoms were very extreme, enough to make me catastrophize about what was going to happen. And Richard too. We were both caught up in catastrophizing. So I'm just wondering if you can comment on the tendency to identify when faced with a level of pain that is unusual or unfamiliar.
Well, it is intense, and it's intrusive.
I can't hear you.
Oh, can you hear me?
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. First of all, it is really intense, and it's an intrusive kind of pain, right, in your mouth.
Oh, well,
So
yeah, it was
bring
the
up
infection. The infection, it was a headache. I got an intense headache, fever, chills. And then I was on antibiotics that just made me nauseous constantly. So it wasn't so much the mouth. The mouth was fine.
The what is fine?
My mouth was never an issue. It was the rest of my body.
Right. right? But it would still feel intrusive, right?
You very much, yeah, yeah.
Well, it's a great example of aging, disease, progression toward death. That's what the Buddha said that we had to do, right? To observe our uh, old age, disease, and death. That's the trajectory of our lives. We don't think of it much when we're young, healthy, alive, and feel invincible, and everything's laid out in front of us. It's exciting. We don't know what's going to happen next, but we feel ready for it. It doesn't feel like that as we start getting older. It doesn't feel like that every day.
Yeah, it was like I had thought I was invincible. I could see that. What was partly so distressing was I realized I am not invincible. And I had known that theoretically, but I hadn't known it viscerally.
Right. Yes, I'm going through very similar teachings now. Some days I can hardly walk. My hips and my glutes, my pelvis, everything's burning and tight and tense. And I don't know really, I'll find out today. I'm going to some rehab therapy at the hospital. I might learn more about it today. I sometimes think it's related to, it's a new manifestation of, you know, the stroke a few years ago. 'Cause it came out of nowhere.
So you and Michelle have given us a really good number of examples of being with physical pain
Yes.
and bodily distress. Um, how how do you, is it, well, I'm, it's a kind of a stupid question. I guess it's the practice. You just need to practice
With
to
every
get
step.
there.
For me, it's every day and almost every step. Sometimes, I don't have to go anywhere, so I can just sit or lay down and feel the sensations and other sensations and mental states and reflections and brahmaviharas and whatnot. Other times, I have to go somewhere. I have to go to the kitchen or go eat with some neighbors or something like that. And every step is painful. So my preference usually isn't to go out if I can arrange it so I don't have to go out. But like last night, I went out with some friends downstairs, and it's not an object, it's not a subject of conversation at a nice restaurant. So it's just there. It's just there in the background, and I don't say anything. I still enjoy the dinner, and it's a practice to listen carefully and participate in the conversation. I can't just get up and go somewhere else and lie down for a while because I'm
Mhm.
at this restaurant. So I'm just with the sensations the way you'd be at an intensive retreat. That sometimes is not unlike what you experienced after you had that infection, right? Some of the most intense parts of a meditation retreat
Mhm.
is it's pain for no
Mhm.
reason. And how do we work with it then? Just try to feel into and around the sensation and any the unpleasantness of it, or the relationship between unpleasant and reactivity, aversion. And when we're with the unpleasant, it's just unpleasant. It's okay. There's no reactivity. There's reactivity where we experience dukkha. Unpleasant is just unpleasant, but aversion is disturbs our whole system. It throws us off, and we can lose mindfulness. get lost in the thoughts and concepts about what's happening to us, thus the identification. So what else is going on, around around the pain, and how am I relating to the pain? Is it with thoughts and reactions? Is it pleasant, unpleasant? Am I being mindful? Can little shifts make a difference in how I'm sitting? When I'm in company, I can't just necessarily do whatever I want. And so I really have to be centered on something. I really have to find a meditation anchor, another sensation in the body, something visual or sound, or being able to talk about it as you can, if you have the opportunity. If you're in a situation like last night, wasn't a time where I could just kind of freely talk about the pain, because there was a group of us, and it wasn't necessarily appropriate. It wasn't a good thing to have with dessert.
Yes.
So just a silent inner awareness of the discomfort, and what are the extents of it? What are the boundaries of it? And where is the mindfulness in all of that? And where is the identification? And when does the identification end? Or where does it end? That calls up the awareness. We want to try and understand. We don't want to resist if there's a strong identification. Sometimes that's an important protection. You want to understand it. Of course, you would feel that way under those circumstances.
I think what I failed to do was to back off ever from focusing on the predominant sensations. I didn't ever go put my attention somewhere more neutral.
Right.
And so then I got exhausted and just spiraled down.
And identified more.
Exactly.
Yeah. I understand that.
I think it's one of the really important, profound pieces of the way you and Michelle and Jesse are teaching is that to have a balancing point for that tendency to focus on the predominant sensation or thought or whatever, the predominant experience, to be able to give yourself permission to back off.
Right. We don't have to be with something because it's predominant.
Yeah. Yeah. It's something I need to practice more.
Right. And noticing when we identify, what are the conditions that cause us to identify, and what are the conditions that causes us to disidentify, to not identify. It's just what's actually happening in the moment. How do we peel back? How do we dismantle that construction of self in all of that? Use our mindfulness that way.
So in a way, it just,
You presented all this as part of, aging, disease, and death. So it's good to hold that too, since that's where the question came out of.
and it seems, it's just occurring to me that that's the benefit of old age, sickness, and death is to disidentify with the body. Because that's part of why I was suffering so much.
Right. Yeah, when we can, and just to investigate when we are identifying. And what is that experience exactly? Not judging it, not thinking that we shouldn't be identified, not trying to push experience away, because that's happening.
Thank you, Stephen.
Anything to add, Darine?
Just like, yes. Uh,
You're happy that I was suffering.
yeah. Of course not. Oh, I love it. I love your practice, and I love how just how humble is what you are saying, actually. And in retreats, that when we have a bad seed and we get identified with it, that's when we suffer. And so this is like a microcosm of that. And of course, if you're exhausted, if energy is not strong enough, and all those conditions, it's not personal. And my best friends, they say you should meditate more to me. And so, yeah, of course. And more and more compassion for that identification of failing. It's not you failing. That's what hurts. And just a clarification about the predominant. We can stay with predominant as long as we check the motivation for staying with the predominant experience. That's the key, and no problem. And if we're staying because we want to get rid of it, well, that's different. And another thing is that we can pay attention. You can open up. You can open your eyes, and it doesn't need to be even in the body if there is a lot of discomfort. It can be that you are connected to your surroundings, connected to the beauty or something that makes you feel safe, or eye contact with your husband or whatever, or your dog, anything. And so you're still connected, you're still present, and you're getting nourishment, and instead of disconnecting.
Thank you,
Good job.
Darine.
Good job. See?
Good job. A rich body of teachings today from everyone. So just reflect a little bit about what and how to take into your life. It's Sunday, where most of you are. I don't know what Monday will be like, or even Sunday night. But I find it always a little valuable to keep some link to what we do here when we sit and we ask questions and we listen, and the teachings that come out of all of us. And today has its own unique processes, each of you having a unique situation. of identification, or the mind distracting, or uh, dealing with pain, or what else is a good anchor, uh, if we need an alternate anchor, and finding, how we do move through different stages of life, the kinds of things that happen that, pain can often definitely feel much more intense as we age, and much more opportunity perhaps for some identification. But also, if you reflect with gratitude on how many years or decades you've been practicing non-identification, non-attachment, uh, feeling grateful for having those tools, and how can they be used, as we go forward, as we go on the rest of the day and the coming week. What are we taking to reflect on that? What are we taking into our everyday life, or some pain that we may be having, physical, emotional, psychological? Recognizing where and when and how we might identify, where and when and how we might disidentify, and practice that, just like we have been. Thank you for your teachings, every one of you. And see you next time. Don't you like it how all the squares start to disappear? The colors and the faces. Aloha.